The movie opens with a scene from a battle between humanity and an alien force known as the Formics, who had attacked Earth and killed millions of people 50 years ago. The invasion was thwarted by the efforts of the commander Mazer Rackam, who crashed his plane into the Formic Queenship, apparently losing his life in the process. Ever since the battle, the Earth has been preparing for a counterattack and borderline resorts to child labor apparently, as talented children are trained by the international fleet using methods like introducing war games at a very young age that helps them to become intuitive, decisive, and fearless. One of the cadets, Andrew Wiggin, or Ender for short, is engaged in a war game combat with a senior student and is observed by Colonel Hiram Graff and Major Gwen Anderson. Ender is easily able to defeat the senior, who demands a rematch after he accuses Ender of cheating. But Ender's calm demeanor makes him a person of interest to Graff, who decides to put him through a series of emotional tests to gain an insight into his aptitude. Ender is soon called into the infirmary, where the microchip implanted in every gifted student to monitor them is removed, making him think he is being taken out of the program. Frustrated, he walks out of the infirmary and is surrounded by the senior students he had defeated in the game. They rough him up, but when the senior challenges him, Ender challenges the senior's durability repeatedly using his boot and intimidates the others afterwards, warning them to leave him alone. Once back at home, Ender has tears in his eyes as he narrates the incident to his sister Valentine. The eldest sibling, Peter, intervenes in their conversation and mocks Ender for being pulled out of the program, just like him and Valentine. Valentine, however, is supportive of Ender and saves him from Peter's bullying. At dinner, Ender's parents are consoling a disheartened Ender when they get visitors. Colonel Graff and Major Anderson have come to question Ender about the fight he had the other day. Upon hearing his reason behind repeatedly kicking the senior, Colonel Graff discerns it as tactical, a strategy to stop future attacks, and offers to recruit Ender to the battle school, to which he agrees. Colonel Graff brings Ender to the battle school and asks him to join the other cadets his age as they prepare for training in zero gravity in the battle room, for which they travel to an outer space station. From the start, Colonel Graff makes it clear that Ender is extraordinary, attracting the entire squad's attention, which makes others shun him. Soon, the rigorous training starts, and the cadets enter the zero-gravity battle room for the first time. After they get comfortable in zero gravity, they are instructed that they will be competing against other teams in the school. Their preparation includes a balance between theory and practical, coupled with hand-to-hand combat training. Ender shares these details in his letter to Valentine and talks about the fact that they never understood the enemy completely, and no one explains how Mazer Rackam defeated the entire fleet of the Formics. Even his legitimate questions result in him giving 20 rounds of push-ups, but being able to stand for himself earns him appreciation from his fellow cadets. Colonel Graff reassigns Ender to the Salamander Army, led by Commander Bonzo Madrid, thus promoting him. He meets the Salamander Army, and Petra Arcanian, the only female cadet in the army, greets him first. But Bonzo has already made an impression of Ender as untrained and inept, because that's really the only way he can look down on other people, and doesn't allow him to train with the other squad members, so his perfect maneuvers to win the battle are not compromised. Petra volunteers to teach him privately during their free time, which Bonzo initially objects to, but Ender is also assertive and isn't willing to give up his free time training, as it is his right. It is the day of the match, and Bonzo sidelines Ender, and the rest of the Salamander squad face another team, but they are hardly able to keep up. And when Ender sees Petra get hurt, he enters the game and takes her to safety. Using a strategic move, Ender plays dead till he reaches the opponent team's area and starts shooting at the players, immobilizing them and in turn, helping Salamander Army win and end their losing streak. Ender has also been engaging in a computerized game he believes is rigged because he fails no matter what glass he chooses in the fantasy world. So he does the unthinkable and eliminates the character that asks him to choose. Moving forward, Ender notices the characters of the game have started to resemble the people in his life. Even his own avatar appears to look exactly like him. Meanwhile, Colonel Graff and Major Anderson keep a vigil on the game and are flabbergasted to learn that Ender's brother Peter and a Formic appeared in the game as characters. These images forming on their own are probably the result of Ender's interaction with the game, and Colonel Graff orders Major Anderson to erase the game. Just as Colonel Graff is thinking about what just happened, he gets an alert, and the computer shows him a real-time image of the Formics approaching the Earth. After the report of each cadet is out, Graff is particularly impressed by Ender's scores and the fact that he has a tendency to upset the commanders. Graff promotes Ender to lead his own army called the Dragon Army, which will constitute misfits like Ender himself, but can turn out to be brilliant under the guidance of the right commander. And as Colonel Graff had predicted, Ender had already started introducing positive changes in his army, the fruits of which are seen in the upcoming game. Colonel has made the rules strict and introduced a surprise element where the Dragon Army is put against two other teams, one of them being the Salamander Army. Just before the commencement of the game, Petra joins Dragon Army as a substitute on Colonel Graff's orders. Using his tactical prowess, Ender makes an unpredicted formation, sacrificing part of his army to get the other half onto the other side of the battle room, thus achieving the goal and winning the match. Colonel Graff couldn't have asked for more and smugly rubs it in Major Anderson's face, who thought Ender was not ready to take on the responsibility of a commander. Angry about his defeat, Bonzo attacks Ender in the shower, but Ender doesn't want to hurt him, so he pushes Bonzo away, which makes him fall and suffer a head injury, hurting him anyway. He is immediately taken into emergency surgery, and holding himself responsible for what happened, Ender wishes to return to Earth with Bonzo and quits, while Colonel Graff tries to convince him otherwise. Left with no option, Colonel Graff visits the Wiggins and asks Valentine to accompany him. He takes her to a facility amidst the mountains, where Ender sits by the lake, and the siblings embrace each other after being apart for so long. The two sail on the lake, talking, and Ender tells Valentine he has been sitting beside Bonzo's bed daily. He fears Bonzo might never wake up, and he can't seem to forgive himself for behaving exactly like Peter taught him. But Valentine asks him to concentrate on the greater good, because if he doesn't go back, the people on Earth might not make it if they're attacked again. She manages to convince him to continue his training. But for a change, Graff doesn't take him back to battle school. Instead, he takes Ender to their advanced command base on a former Formic planet, which is near the Formics' home planet, where he'll begin his final training. On his first day, Ender is surprised to find a man with a tattooed face who attacks him, giving him his first lesson to trust no one, and then briefs him about the training. Upon questioning, the man reveals he is Mazer Rackam, who had survived the war. Rackam shows Ender the unedited footage and explains that the Formics follow a queen, and when he let his plane crash into the Queenship, the Formics automatically gave up and started falling from the sky. Rackam then takes Ender to meet his former squad members, and he is delighted to see some familiar faces. Rackam then directs them to get on the computerized simulator to train for combat with a large fleet. The images from the latest probe are shown on the screen to give them an idea of the enemy planet and the expansion of their military power. Rackam tells Ender the Formics are planning to colonize another planet, and the international fleet has ordered the commanders to eliminate them before they pose an irreversible threat. Soon, Ender's training starts on photoreal simulations to best approximate real battles. His two leaders will each command a battle group, and Ender will be required to issue orders after careful scrutinization. His main goal will be to protect the Molecular Detachment Device, or MD-500, capable of disintegrating matter, which Petra is trained to fire. The training gradually becomes rigorous and seems more real than ever. Ender is burned out due to lack of sleep, and so is his team. On the days they fail the mission, an intense session awaits him from Colonel Graff and Colonel Rackam. But they have run out of time to replace Ender, and he is asked to prepare himself for a final simulation before they go to war. The night before the final simulation, Ender is troubled with questions about Formics related to facets other than war and wonders if they can communicate with humans. With many such questions, Ender falls asleep. It is D-Day, and several fleet commanders have arrived to witness it. The simulation starts with Ender's fleet hovering over the Formic homeworld, but he soon realizes his fleet is outnumbered. He decides to forfeit over 50% of his force to act as a shield to protect the MD and ensure that it has sufficient time to launch at the planet, thereby eradicating its entire population. The simulation ends and Ender and his team cheer as they think they have won the game. But his happiness doesn't last for long when the commanders restart the visuals and mass destruction of what was supposed to be the Formics colonies is seen, which makes Ender realize that they participated in an actual war and destroyed the Formics home planet. Ender is overburdened by the guilt of ending an entire alien species and storms off from there, but Colonel Graff catches up to him and tries to explain their actions. Ender is unwilling to listen because he had observed that the Formics were never once to attack the humans first. He believes that the war could have been prevented and many lives could have been saved, and now he'll have to bear the shame of this genocide forever. Though Colonel Graff argues differently and says they won, and only that matters, Ender rebuts and says the way they win matters before storming off. He only moves a few steps when he is tranquilized by the staff and taken back to his chamber. Petra convinces Colonel Graff to let her stay with Ender till he gains consciousness. While Ender's asleep, he has a vision of the Formic from the mind game he had once played and soon wakes up with a start and rushes outside the command base to the Formic structure nearby. He tells Petra, who follows him with the oxygen supply, that he saw this place in the mind game and believes Formics were trying to communicate as they gained access to the game and his dreams. He sends Petra back and walks to the structure alone, as now he understands it was the Formic's queen trying to communicate, and he feels obliged to find a way to make amends for the destruction he unknowingly caused. He enters the structure and reaches its core when a Formic queen reveals herself. She first moves to threaten him with her sharp claws, but sensing no danger from him, she retracts it and touches his face lightly before communicating with him telepathically. Ender has tears in his eyes as he is remorseful for the destruction he caused. He realizes the queen is about to die, and she shows him the queen's egg she has been protecting all this time. Ender promises her that he'll find a new home for them. With the war ended, Ender is promoted to the rank of Admiral and is left to his own devices. He is also given a small ship, on which he decides to travel the universe, carrying the precious egg in order to find a planet where the Formics can restart their race. And that's a wrap for this movie recap. Thank you for watching.